As part of your assignment today, you're going to be making bar graphs to keep track of what kind of energy an object has at different points in time. And I'm just going to go through an example of that. The first step will be to draw yourself an axis for each point in time. Now, there are three types of energy that are going to show up on this assignment. The first one is kinetic energy, and I'm just going to label my axis with a KE. The next kind is gravitational potential energy. So I'm going to label my axis with PEG for gravitational potential. The last kind is elastic potential energy. So I'm going to label my axis with a PE followed by a smaller e. And then I'm going to do the same thing for those other 2 points in time. Now that I've got axes drawn for points A, B, and C, I'm going to go ahead and start filling in the energy that it has. I'm going to start with point A. The problem says that a toy is wound up and moving at a constant speed up an incline. So at point A, that means that the toy is already wound up. That means it's got to have some elastic potential energy. Now, instead of just drawing a nice big bar, I'm going to draw a few blocks. That's going to make it much easier to compare the size of the different bars. Next, I'm going to look at gravitational potential energy. At point A, the toy is right at the bottom of the incline, so that means it has no gravitational potential. I'm going to put an X on my bar graph. That shows that I've thought about gravitational potential and decided that there isn't any there. The last type of energy is kinetic. Since the toy is moving right away, that means it must have some kinetic energy right away. And it doesn't matter too much how many blocks I draw for the kinetic energy. Now, when I move over to point B, that toy is moving at a constant speed. So that means when it's halfway up the ramp, it must have the same speed, and therefore the same kinetic energy that it had at point A. This is where those blocks start to get really helpful. Since I drew 3 blocks for the kinetic energy at point A, I'm going to draw 3 for the kinetic energy at point B. And that shows that it has the same amount of kinetic energy at those 2 points. At point B, it's made it partway up the ramp, so it's got some height. When it has some height, that means it's got some gravitational potential. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of blocks under PEG. Lastly, for elastic potential, that spring in the toy is going to unwind and relax as it goes up the ramp. So it's going to lose elastic potential energy. So at point B, I'm only going to draw 2 blocks instead of 3. At point C, it still has that constant speed. So the kinetic energy is still exactly the same as it was at point A and point B. The gravitational potential, now the toy is at a much higher point than it was at B. So I'm going to draw some extra blocks there to show that it's got more gravitational potential. But at C, that spring is going to have unwound even further. So I'm going to draw just 1 block for the elastic potential.